What's up, all you good for the fly guys? You know who it is, the cat in the hat, your resident fly guy, your chief architect, Michelangelo of StarArchitects.com, here to help you redesign your frame of mind when it comes to telling your story in style. And welcome to another Discourse in Dress, where I supply you with expressions for your ensemble and some sonnets for your style. This week on Style Speaks, we're going to be talking all about rakish style. But before we do, if this is your first time here, welcome. Now, this is a great time for you to be here to start figuring out how you can add these characteristics to your style story. If you find the information beneficial, please consider subscribing. I would love to be a character in that story. And if you have already described, like my man Sabuda Maloya, I hope I said your name right, fam, then you know I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to figuring out how these chapters in your closet all come together to tell your story. Now, all you have one thing left to do is hit that notification bell, and that way you will be notified each and every time new content comes out. Now today and this week we're going to be talking all about the characteristics of the rake. This chapter will be beneficial for some of you guys, but even if you don't feel like you are going to embody some of the characteristics of the character, stick around because it will still allow you to see and recognize when other guys are rakes and how to maneuver within your own seductive character while not showing any intimidation or worrying about what they're doing. So when it comes to the rake, where do we get the name rake from? Well, rake is a shorter name for Raquel. And Raquel was a person or a spirit or entity that would be in the depths of hell, and it would be raking the coals of, the hellfire. And what that essentially symbolizes and represents is the heat, is the consumption of passion. And so when you have a person who is a rakish type of guy or has a rakish character, he's a guy who is just insatiable when it comes to women. He's insatiably passionate when it comes to pursuing a woman and will move hell and high water to obtain her. Now, once he gets her, once he beds her, he may dismiss her and won't even kiss her again, right? But in that time where he is purely focused on her, there's nothing that he won't do in order to get her. It's kind of like a guy like Drake, who will say all this stuff publicly about, Rihanna or any other young lady that he may be interested in. Like, he's unashamed, unafraid to speak his mind about the love interest of the moment. Right now, right after he gets with them or they're kissing or something, he dismisses them and he's on to the next chick. Or a guy like Chris Brown, who has a bit of a bad boy persona, that's still associated with him, that he still has the inability to kick, but he still has quite a few young ladies still checking for him because there's still something attractive about him. Or even like a guy like Trey Songz, who still has this appeal, even though he's been very clear that he has no intentions of slowing or settling down anytime soon. Now, when it comes to style, I definitely wouldn't point you to those guys who tend to be very fashionable when it comes to creating a classically rakish style. But when you think about it, it just needs to evoke passion. It needs to evoke a visceral response. It needs to evoke a space of discomfort or imbalance for that person. The reason being is because if you are passionate, passion is not only sexually charged, it's also emotionally charged. So you can have a young lady who is all hot and bothered by you, but a rakish guy will also take this lady to the edges of insanity and crazy. But a lot of young ladies don't really want the conservative elements of relationships nowadays, especially. And so in any case, if the world is going to super, taboo and everything is going and nothing is off limits, then that rake is going to always rebel against whatever the status quo is. And so as we move more to the crazy and outlandish and people are always seeking attention, you may see that rakish guys tend to be a little bit more withdrawn and reserved, and that will be ultimately more seductive because it's mysterious. Then when we move into the space of evoking the visceral response, when somebody is not thinking about something, they are just in their feelings or they're caught up in the emotion, that's when you have young ladies who end up in bed with a guy and ask themselves, how did I even get here? Right? Because they're like, man, I was so caught up in the moment that I threw caution to the wind. And when you put them on that space of a dangerous liaison, even if it's just in their mind and you're really a well-meaning guy, then it still creates this feeling that they will want to hold on to. And lastly, when it comes to imbalance, if everything is balanced for a lot of people, especially when it comes to sexual or intimate spaces, what ends up happening is people become bored. So even if you're married or if you're in a long committed relationship, but you have rakish tendencies, there's nothing wrong with just creating a little bit, don't get crazy, but a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of unease in those different types of spaces, so that your young lady can have that feeling of imbalance. Don't make her feel insecure. And don't get mad if she gets a little jealous or she gets a little upset. That always leaves the room for the makeup situation. You know what I'm talking about. So as the week continues, we're going to have more of an in-depth conversation about the style of the rake, but I do want you to start thinking about things that are going to create a bit of juxtaposition, a bit of imbalance, a bit of visceral response. So just some quick tidbits. If you want to be immediately more rakish, you should think about dark tones. You should think about things that are going to cover some aspect of your face. When I was younger, my mentors used to always say, man, you always have that hat rakishly tilted to the side because it would obscure a piece of my eye. Or if I was taking a picture, the lens would only capture the bottom half of my face. And if eyes are the windows to the soul, then I was potentially closing those off and creating an air of mystery. And you also want to create things or match things and combine things that are not going to necessarily be the most conventional, because you're creating a very visceral response. So I want you to try that on, see how it fits you. If you find the information beneficial, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. This is going to help the channel to grow. And don't forget that we are here every Monday through Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here to help you redesign your frame of mind when it comes to the styling thing. And lastly, don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind, so you should always dress to express. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.